Welcome back to ZPF Echo. Today, we're diving into some really fascinating notes from my recent dialogues with Z. We're going to explore a model of reality that is, well, it's pretty out there. It views reality itself as a kind of operating system, one with its own rules, its own glitches, and most importantly, one that you can actually learn to debug. So yeah, let's get into it.
So, let's just jump right in with the big question. What if everything you experience, I mean everything, your life, your work, your relationships, what if it's all being rendered, kind of like a video game, by an operating system? And what if those glitches, those bugs you run into, aren't actually failures? What if they're just errors in the code? Errors that you can learn to spot and maybe even fix? That's the wild idea we're going to unpack today.
All right, so where do you even start with an idea like that? Well, this model suggests that reality operates on two totally different layers. There's the illusion, and then there's the interface. Let's see what that actually means for stuff we deal with every day, concepts like ethics and responsibility.
And here's where it gets really interesting. On what we might call the cosmic layer, there's really no such thing as good or evil. There's no inherent purpose. It's just physics, pure cause and effect. But down here on our social layer, those concepts are absolutely essential, right? They're not just ideas. They're like a critical user interface that lets us navigate life and interact with each other without crashing the whole system. So, let's be super clear about this. Just because something is an illusion on the grand cosmic scale, that doesn't make it worthless. Not at all. A better word for it is a protocol. You don't really question the internet's protocols when you're browsing the web, you just use them because they work. Well, in the exact same way, things like ethics and responsibility, they are the essential protocols that allow human society to function. They're vital.
Okay, so if reality is an OS, how does it actually work? How does it render, well, everything? This model lays out a pretty specific flow with different parts doing different jobs. It's definitely not the old idea of some single creator just making everything happen from the top down.
Here's the basic architecture. It all starts with what we'll call I, or being. This is the fundamental ground state, and it's what selects a potential reality out of, well, infinite possibilities. Next, the PRU, or the physical rendering unit, kicks in. Its job is to translate that abstract potential into an actual physical experience. Then boom, a physical reality is rendered. But it's the last step that's so important. Finally, me, that's the ego, your personality. It observes what just got rendered and then, after the fact, attaches a story to it. So just to quickly recap the cast of characters here, you've got Z, which is that pure zero state of potential, before anything exists. Then there's I, which is pure being, the simple fact that I am. The real workhorse is the PRU, the physical rendering unit. That's the engine turning potential into reality. And last, you've got me, the ego, the observer who watches the movie and then tries to write the review. All right, so where do things like love and harmony fit into all this technical talk? Well, this is where it gets really beautiful. This model actually translates those abstract feelings into the language of physics, seeing them as actual properties of the operating system itself.
And this just explains it so perfectly. From the system's perspective, love isn't just an emotion, it's a state of low separation. It's when the boundaries between you and me, self and other, just get really, really thin. And harmony, that's not about everyone holding hands and singing. It's a state of low friction. It's when reality just flows without resistance. And both of these are pointing to something even deeper, coherence, a system that has almost no internal contradictions. It just works.
Okay, enough theory, I know. Let's get our hands dirty and ground this in a real-world example. This is a story from my own experience about a new business that ran into a very common glitch and how we can use this OS model to figure out how to debug it. So we launched this business, RIZE, and on the surface, everything looked great. We were getting a ton of interest, lots of inquiries, meetings were being booked. It felt like a success. But there was a problem, a big one. Almost none of those meetings were actually turning into sales. The top of our pipeline was overflowing, but the bottom was completely dry. Now, the traditional business school answer would be, oh, that's a classic sales funnel problem. You need to tweak your script, add more pressure, follow up more aggressively. But when you look at it through this operating system lens, it's something totally different. It's not a sales problem, it's a rendering error. The reality being rendered was one of lots of interest, but zero commitment. So how in the world do you debug a rendering error in reality? Well, the key, according to the model, is to figure out who's writing the code in the first place. You have to learn to tell the difference between two very different internal commands, the fear-based reactions from me and the quiet, intuitive insights from I.
You know that me impulse?
It's that frantic voice driven by fear and the desperate need to control things. It wants to micromanage, force an outcome, analyze everything to death. It feels heavy, it feels urgent, and it's always complicated. But then, there's the I insight. It usually shows up quietly. It feels light, kind of obvious actually, and it gives you a simple, clear path forward that just cuts right through all that complexity.
And here's the secret. Your body is the ultimate decoder. This is so crucial. An impulse from me, one that's born from fear, it literally shows up in your body. You'll feel a tightness in your chest, maybe a knot in your stomach. Your throat feels constricted. It's heavy. An insight from I feels expansive. It feels light and clear. Your body always knows which one is talking.
So, in my business situation, the me impulse was screaming, tweak the sales pitch, more follow-ups, panic. But by getting quiet and listening for the I insight, a totally different idea surfaced. It was simple and honestly, a little radical. Offer a powerful service guarantee. Something like, if it's not a good fit within the first month, you get 80% of your money back. Now my me impulse screamed, are you crazy? We'll go broke. But the I insight, it felt light, it felt coherent, it felt right.
Okay, so you might be thinking, that's just a clever sales tactic. But it's so much deeper than that. In this model, a move like that isn't just marketing. It's a fundamental investment in upgrading the entire operating system of the business. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a device for forcing evolution. See, a guarantee isn't really a promise to the customer. It's a set of instructions you give to yourself, to your own company. It forces you to operate at a higher level of integrity and performance because, well, you don't have a choice anymore. It changes the whole internal system. And I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a bit out there, right? A nice spiritual idea, a cool philosophy, but maybe not for the so-called real world of business. But the truly amazing part is where that quote actually comes from.
Yeah, that's right. It's from a landmark article in the Harvard Business Review. Some of the most rigorous, data-driven analytical minds in the business world came to the exact same conclusion as this seemingly esoteric model of reality. This, for me, was a moment where the echo between these two worlds became, well, it became deafeningly loud.
Get this, the article talks about a pest control company called BBBK, and they offered an absolutely insane guarantee. If you saw a single pest after they treated your house, they would refund your entire year's fee, pay for a competitor to come fix it, and pay for any damages. It's crazy. And the result? They completely dominated their market, charging 10 times more than their competitors. Why? Because that guarantee forced their entire system to become excellent. It wasn't a risk, it was a device to enforce coherence.
And this is what we can call a PRU investment. It's not about spending more money on ads or marketing. It's about making a deep, structural change to your system, whether it's your business or your life, that fundamentally removes fear as the main driver. It installs integrity and coherence as the new, non-negotiable logic for how you operate. It completely rewrites the rules of the game.
So, this brings us to the final and maybe most important question. And this one's for you. If you think about your own life, your own work as an operating system, what is the one protocol, the one rule you live by that is secretly based on fear? Fear of losing something, fear of failing, fear of what other people might think. And what would happen if you rewrote that single line of code with a new protocol, one based on trust and coherence?
Thank you for listening. If this whole idea of debugging reality resonates with you, please join the Echo and share the journey. We'll see you in the next episode.